Bikesafe's a police-led motorcycle road safety scheme. It's a national scheme run across the UK and supported by the Motorcycle Industry Association.
We're a motorcycle action group, so we're one of the leading British motorcycle lobby groups to look after bikers' interests.
Institute Advanced Motorists and Motorcycles. We're here basically to promote safer riding.
Phillip McCallen, Triumph KTM and Kawasaki motorcycles.
Yeah, we work in Ballymena Honda on the north coast.
You're with Motoplus in Coleraine.
Yes.
Chargers Honda motorcycles, the newest franchise for Honda in Northern Ireland.
People like the freedom, I guess. For me, certainly, I've liked riding bikes for a long time, and I've felt that for a number of years that it's the only way to travel. It's also an efficient way to travel. It's economical. You can cut through traffic handy. There's a lot going for it. There's a lot of reasons why it's a good thing to do.
A number of things. I mean, if you live in any big city these days, it's a lot easier way to get around. You're not sitting in traffic jams all the time. Parking isn't a problem. But obviously, anybody who gets into bikes, it becomes just a passion and it's more than a hobby to most people.
The essence of motorcycling is cornering, and you have to experience it to enjoy it. But once bitten, you won't want to give it up.
There's no feeling in the world like riding a motorbike. Just the thrill, the freedom, just the world doesn't matter anymore. You get out on your bike for a few hours and you come home a happier man.
I think it's in most people's blood. A lot of guys are brought up with parents who own bikes and they just get on with it too. The freedom it gives you, adventure, everything, the fresh air, the community and the biking really.
Motorcycles would give you that little sense of freedom, enjoyment, excitement, camaraderie, all those sorts of things that people like to be part of something, don't they? Biking communities, very, very big community in Northern Ireland.
A motorcycle is a pleasure. A car is an A to B, it's a necessity. A motorcycle is a pleasure. For me, it's a feeling of freedom. It means that I can go get on my bike and go have fun. Go have fun with friends, go have fun with family members, or just complete strangers you meet up. It's like a brotherhood, a family. It's one big family around the world. You'll never see another motorcyclist stuck on his own. Someone will always stop for them. But to me, it's just a whole camaraderie around it.
The day you pass your test is the day you're beginning to learn, because it's from that point on that you're out on your own. You're really then starting to learn what biking's like for real, and your restriction goes, and it's a whole new process. So I'd encourage anybody, if not Bikesafe, any form of post-test training, be it Institute of Advanced Motorists or ROSPA, any of the different organisations that are out there that offer further training. Bikesafe's open to everybody. It's a post-test scheme, so you have to pass your bike test. But we have people who have recently passed the test, and people who've been riding bikes for 40 years come to Bikesafe, and everybody goes away having taken something out of it. We'll look at filtering, cornering, overtaking, hazard awareness, all the different aspects that really bikers can come into conflict with other road users, and try to give people ideas about how they can make themselves safer when they're out there using the roads. So yeah, we strongly encourage anybody to consider it, and you can find all the details on www.bikesafe.co.uk.
We're just there to try and put our side forward to the politicians and say, look, it is a legitimate form of transport. Fair enough, you're a little bit more at risk than some other road users, but that's no reason to completely ban it. And just look at being reasonable over things. I mean, in Belfast recently, the road system's changed a lot. We've got a lot of bus lanes in now, and thanks to MAG and the likes of people lobbying the politicians and the decision makers, we've actually got motorcycles allowed in most of the bus lanes in Belfast. So it's been seen as a genuine way of avoiding congestion by getting people actually onto two wheels.
bit of an unfair question you're asking me there, because they're all actually very, very good. And this shows sort of living proof that, you know, we have a big following of motorcyclists in this country, and it's great for us, to be honest, to have 3 franchises. Like you said, we have Kawasaki, Triumph and KTM, and then sitting up at the front we have Kawasaki's #1 selling bike in Europe and the UK, the SX1000. But one bike we better not forget about is the bike sitting in the middle there, Johnny Ray's. And Johnny Ray is our little Irish man who's now double world superbike champion. And the bike that Johnny Ray rides, basically you can buy from my showroom, you know, so with a few little tweaks on it, of course there is, because it's a factory effort, but that bike had to start as a bike you and I can ride and buy in the showroom and ride off down the road. So with that sort of credibility behind it, why would you not buy a Kawasaki? So Johnny Ray is on board now, double world champion, and he's going in this year where people reckon, you know, the established press and media reckon he's going to be, if things go even half like they should, he will be 3 times world champion at the end of next year.
Last year would have probably been the Africa Twin, the new model that came out, big adventure sport, seems to be popular and selling well all over the UK.
Our best selling bike currently is the Z1000 SX, new model in 2017. Yes, that's it. That's the tour version of it.
Beautiful bike.
Yes, very much so.
The best selling bike would probably be the Africa Twin behind us. We put out 8 in January, and I would say probably over half of them have been DCT on this sort of latest innovation into the sort of motorcycle world, semi-automatic transmission. It's great, completely superb. I had it out 2 weekends ago and fell in love with it from the start.
Anything in life there's risks. I'm a believer in risk compensation. I think if you make something too safe, people will find ways to make it more dangerous. Just to, you know, their car's got the Facebook on the dashboard and they've got ABS, they've got airbags, they've got everything else. Then maybe they'll be a bit less careful because they feel safer. But if you're on a bike, most motorcyclists, in my opinion, understand that they are vulnerable and hopefully ride accordingly. There's always the idiot who doesn't. Same as the doors you do in a car, it doesn't. Yeah, yes, you're more vulnerable on a motorbike. From my own personal experience, I'm nearly 50. I've been riding bikes since I was 17. I'm still here. I've had a couple of mishaps, but I tend to ride defensively. I wear the right gear. I've got a crash helmet. I've got my latest purchase. I've got an airbag vest. So if I come off, hopefully that'll stop me breaking my neck. So you take your chances and you assess the risks, and I think that's what life should be about. You know, being able to take your own risks or assess your own risks without someone else saying no. You know, I'm going to decide that for you. That's really what we're about.
The step on a motorcycle is being much more observant, riding to a system, and being smoother rider. So you've got to be safe, you've got to be smooth, you've got to be systematic, and that way you'll make much more progression.
I'm a big ambassador for safety, really. I'm working very hard with companies like RST and Denisi at the minute for maximum safety. You know, I've done helmet development in the past with RI and people like that. So, you know, a rider who's skimping a little bit, sometimes it might be for a financial reason, it might be for their opinion, their what, but generally, within reason, you don't have to spend like thousands anymore to be safe. All clothing now has CE approved armour in it, so you can have that. All helmets are to even the basic helmet is to that pretty high European standard. You can go beyond that. I've just been mixed up now with Denisi for a couple of years, and they have the DR suit, and that's an air jacket that explodes underneath your suit before impact. I think it's in 45 milliseconds that goes from a flat piece of material to an air chamber ready for impact. So yes, it's getting better. Gloves now have all sorts of protection for scaphoid injuries and broken fingers. Boots are getting stronger as well. Leathers and textiles are getting stronger. So to be honest, plus put the safety of a bike on top of that with your traction control, your ABS, your different engine modes for different weather conditions. Motorcycling really is safer now than it's ever been in its history, in the bike-wise and the protective clothing and helmets.
I think it's getting better. The safety gear everybody's wearing these days is far better than it used to be. All the textile stuff got proper protective things in it. Better weather protection as well now. High visibility clothing is definitely more popular than it used to be.
Ultimately, we all wear biking gear and should wear biking gear, and if you look at what some bikers invest in their clothing and their protective apparel, they do, I think, protect themselves adequately. Most of them. I can't speak for everyone, can I?
Motorcyclists, they have to be prepared, you know, they have to think ahead, they have to think for other people. You know, if an accident does happen, what do I do? Is there a way I can help prevent it, or is there a way that I can protect myself if something does happen? So I would say most motorcyclists would be prepared for some form of accident.
How do you mean?
Well, how do you protect yourself against the consequences of death? Have you ever thought about that?
No, I haven't really thought about that.
We're all going to die sometime. Yes. Just don't know how. But hopefully it won't be on the roads.
We all have to decide in our lives when that's going to happen. Are we prepared for it? Are we not? Different religions, different people have different ideas and that. So in our bodies and in our minds, yeah, maybe we are. Some people are prepared for death, some's not. But no, you ride a bike for fun, for love. There is accidents going to happen. Some people have things in place if that ever happens. Sometimes it never happens. If I'm going out on a bike, you know, I don't go out to die. I go out for the feeling and the satisfaction and the happiness of riding the bike.
I don't know about that one. I think it's a word we don't ever think about.
Does anyone prepare for death? One doesn't know. One doesn't know because one may have an attitude about death and think that that's the end of it. Other people may think that there's a life thereafter, but one doesn't know. That's up to the individual, isn't it?
I would say the average motorcyclist, not until if they do have an accident, is prepared. I mean, the likes of the road racers, Michael Dunlop, William, Ian Hutchinson, I would say that they've sort of made their piece and says, if it happens, it happens.
So, are you ready for death?
Not right now, no, but if it happens, you know, it's just one of those things.
What do you think about after death?
I don't know, as I say, I haven't really given much thought now, but I would like to think there is something there, you know, it gives you that hope, that sort of comfort, you know, that if it did come, that it's not just black, there's something after it, and that hopefully it's all good for everybody, you know, don't wish any ill upon anybody.
So, do you think Jesus is relative?
I'm not sure, personally. I wouldn't certainly think of it that way. Some people would say yes, some people would say no, but it all depends who you ask, but I haven't really thought about it that much, you know. I haven't delved into that much detail, but I would say there's some element to it there, yeah.
So riding a bike, you have to be careful. You got to plan ahead, you got to look ahead, you got to be aware of the hazards, the obstacles, and where you look is where you go. You got to look to the end of the road. But when it comes to the greatest hazard of all, we seem to forget about our looking ahead and planning. And we make no travel plans for death. And yet we know it's coming. Most people have no idea about death, what it is, where it goes, if there is anything, or if it's just a hole in the ground. But there is one who not only talked about it, but demonstrated power over death. And Jesus was no hypocrite. The religious were his enemies. He was beaten, whipped, and brutally murdered to pay the penalty for your crime and mine. He did it because he wants to forgive, but the penalty must be paid. They put him in a tomb and put a big rock in front of it, and 3 days later the tomb was empty and he was gone. He appeared to his followers to show them he was alive, just as he said he would. And here you have the proof that death is not the end, that there is more. We need to look ahead, and we need to plan ahead. We need to look to the end of the road. And the one who can help us with this ultimate hazard is the King, the one who was dead, but lives forever. It's time for a different adventure. Be safe, ride carefully, make travel plans. Any questions? Put them in the comments below. Subscribe for more.